Hey trainers, Alec Ham here with some more Pokemon video magic. And in the video that I am uploading today, I am going to be featuring some battles with our newest Community Day Pokemon, Hydreigon. At least I think that's how you say it. It seems like it from the anime and everything. And I was fortunate enough to catch a pretty decent IV Shiny, so I'm going to be rocking that bad boy in the Open Ultra League for this particular video. I have added a second move to the Master League Hydreigon that I caught, but really in Ultra League that second move doesn't make a huge difference in terms of the win rate. So instead of spending that Stardust right now, because I'm saving up for some other stuff, I have decided to just stick with Brutal Swing. But that move is pretty good. It does a decent amount of damage, and it certainly is more available and accessible in terms of its energy than any of the previously available moves. So there you go. In any case, we are mostly going to be relying on fast move damage rather than charge move damage with Hydreigon. Hydreigon is incredibly glassy, but it hits really hard. Those dragon breaths really add up, even against resisted Pokemon. So in this first battle, I was really trying hard to showcase the Hydreigon, so I thought maybe if I used up all of my shields that I would be able to farm down with Dragon Breaths, but unfortunately I was unable to win that matchup against the Walrein, and now I am in a predicament because my Tapu Fini is going to be unshielded against this Cresselia, which is running Grass Knot, and again, that is not great for me. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the Moonblast here, but my opponent swaps into Nidoqueen. I'm trying to get to the Surf. If I could have landed Surf to do some super effective damage there, that would have been nice, but unfortunately I did not get to it. And now I come in with the Toxicroak. I'm trying to farm up a little bit extra because I would like to be able to have some energy for the Cresselia. Toxicroak in general does really well against Cresselia unless the Cresselia has Future Sight. But in this case, going down both shields for the Hydreigon did not really work out very well, unfortunately. But that's okay. So we started off with a loss. We'll have to see what we can do to come back in this particular set. So we're going to move into game 2, and I'm going to focus more on the commentary this time than kind of the setup and orientation. As you saw, I am leading Tapu Fini because I'm hoping that having that Fairy Water type is going to deal with most of the Pokemon that would be problematic for the Hydreigon. Specifically, I want to be able to try and take out any fighters. I want to be able to deal with Talonflame, and I want to be able to have some offense on Walrein up front so that it's less comfortable for my opponent to stay in with a Pokemon like that later. So we end up with a pretty good lead. Tapu Fini into Swampert, and my opponent swaps out into their Poison type to counter Tapu Fini, which is a Fairy type, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in Hydreigon. So Hydreigon does pretty well against the Alolan Muck because we're going to be resisting all of those Dark type moves, and even though Brutal Swing is going to be doing resisted damage, we still got a shield there because it's going to chunk enough that those Dragon Breaths could take out the Muck. So I'm going to go ahead and let this Sludge Wave through. I knew it was a Sludge Wave because they threw exactly 5 Snarls, which is what it takes to get to Sludge Wave, and that's why I shielded the first time. So we are able to survive that Sludge Wave, and then we are able to farm down, and my opponent brings in a Cresselia, which is really great for me because Hydreigon, as a part Dark type, is going to be resisting those fast moves, and we were able to land a Brutal Swing and almost got to that second Brutal Swing. That was so close. So unfortunately, this Cresselia has a lot of energy. I am just gambling that they don't have Future Sight. I don't remember if I shield this or not. I don't. Yeah, gambling, they don't have Future Sight, which they don't. They show their hand there by throwing the resisted move. They try to bait me with Grass Knot there. And then my opponent switches back into Swampert. And it's very good that we won switch advantage here because Swampert does very well against my Toxicroak, but Tapu Fini does really well against the Swampert. I was not sure if I could farm down before they got to another Earthquake, so I was just going to go for the Surf, but I knew that they did not throw enough fast moves to have an Earthquake ready at that point, so I went ahead and let the move through because I knew it would be Hydro Cannon and that I would be able to survive. It takes 5 mud shots to get to a Hydro Cannon. Now my opponent comes back in with the Cresselia. I will shield this time just for safety in case they had something like Future Sight equipped on their Cresselia, but it looks like they did not. So Toxicroak is going to be able to snag that last shield, and Toxicroak resists all the moves here. But even so, it doesn't matter because we're not going to have to tank a move. Toxicroak does reach that Sludge Bomb, and we are able to sludge the Cresselia out of the game. So turning things around a little bit, lost that first match, but getting back into the groove, hopping into game 2 there. And now we're going to move on to game 3 and see if I can't keep this streak rolling. I'm going to be running the same team this whole time, so now we've got Tapu Fini on the lead against Kommo-o. And Kommo-o does not want to see Tapu Fini because it is going to lose hard to fairy types. My opponent brings in a Machamp, and I think that they were just sort of making a move of desperation, hoping that I would swap immediately when I saw them swap. But actually, I'm going to stay in this matchup because Tapu Fini, as a fairy type, is going to resist everything but Rock Slide, and my opponent went for a Payback, which is a big move, but dark type moves are resisted by fairies. That did a lot of damage still, but we were able to survive, and I'm able to farm down. So now we have energy loaded on the Tapu Fini. We'll see what they bring in. So they have a Registeel in the back, and Registeel will take neutral damage from Surf, but Surf is not a particularly hard-hitting move. Oh, also they have a shiny Registeel, which I think looks really cool. That nice emerald green tone. Pretty fun. So I will get to another Surf before they reach their charge move there, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in the Toxicroak. I do have 2 shields still, so I'll go ahead and use one of them here. They do go for the neutral Zap Cannon to lower my attack. Makes sense. I do think we would have survived a Zap Cannon, but I just wanted to keep a decent amount of health on the Toxicroak up front here. And now my opponent's going to go for another move. And it is the Zap Cannon again for neutral damage. It's a lot of neutral damage, but Toxicroak is actually pretty bulky once you get it up into the Ultra League. It's not the bulkiest thing around, but it's, you know, not doing bad. And my opponent decides to switch, so I am also going to switch and bring in Hydreigon. And the Kommo-o can do a lot of damage really fast to the Hydreigon, but just by shielding once, we're going to be able to go ahead and farm down with that super effective Dragon Breath damage. And then the Registeel was low enough that we could actually just farm down there as well. I had the Brutal Swing loaded, so I could have thrown that to try and get the last shield. That way my Toxicroak could have finished things off. But it was unnecessary because even resisted Dragon Breaths there were going to be enough to farm down. All right, jumping into game 4, we also see a Cresselia in this game. This time I counted up to, I think it's 6 Psycho Cuts and then made a swap. And I was doing that knowing that it was a high-risk move because if Hydreigon gets hit by a Moonblast, that's more or less going to take it out, right? But landing that Brutal Swing is really, really good. And by counting up to 6 and swapping, I was hoping that I was going to catch that Grass Knot that they were planning to throw at the Tapu Fini. So fortunately, I was able to get that right. So my opponent actually responds with a Talonflame, and Talonflame does all right against the Hydreigon here, but it's not going to be doing amazingly. This can be a fairly even matchup, but in this case, one Flame Charge is not going to do it, right? Because Hydreigon resists those Fire-type moves. And I get the last shield there, which is really nice, and we still simultaneously KO. Not the last shield, but one shield, so we are even now. And I let the timer run out, and the game automatically brought in Toxicroak, which is not the Pokemon I needed there. So I immediately swapped into the Tapu Fini to help deal with the Swampert. So my opponent brings back in their Cresselia, and this is fine. I can let at least one Grass Knot come through here. Yeah, one is not going to KO. So I was really trying to go for that Moonblast, but as I was counting the moves at the time, I didn't think I was going to get there. So I went ahead and threw the Surf and almost got to another Surf. Okay, so I do expend the shield here because I want to use Tapu Fini against the Swampert. So we are able to farm down, no shields are left, and I'm forcing my opponent to throw their move. If it's a Hydro Cannon, I don't think it KOs. Oh, it did, it just barely KO'd. All right, so that's fine. We're gonna go ahead and bring in Toxicroak, and we just have to KO before they get to an Earthquake. They do get to a move here, but I don't think they had enough energy stored for it to be an Earthquake. Right, and it is the Hydro Cannon. So Hydro Cannon does not quite take us out, and Toxicroak is able to counter down, and we take the win on that game as well. This is a pretty good turnaround from where we started. I always get kind of pessimistic if I lose the first battle in a set, but this was going pretty well, and we'll see if I can bring it home with this last match. So in game number 5, I come up against an absolutely fantastic lead with my Tapu Fini as a Fairy type against the Machamp. And then my opponent brings in Walrein. That's great. I have Toxicroak specifically for things like Walrein and Registeel. So they did build up enough energy to potentially have an Earthquake there. I'm going to respect that Earthquake because it could one-shot the Toxicroak. And also, we don't have to expend any more shields than they have, so there was really no disadvantage to using the shield there. I'm going to go ahead and throw the Mud Bomb, and they block even though they are very low, which tells me they need to get this next move off. It is going to be the Earthquake. I did not want to lose switch advantage because we had such a good situation in the beginning, and also that Machamp is going to have real strength against my Hydreigon. Toxicroak throwing the poison type move there, and I'm actually just gonna let Toxicroak go down here. I thought maybe I could farm down. They recognize that and threw the cross chop. That's fine. I can safely come back in with Tapu Fini here, and I'm immediately going to swap into my dark type to counter the Gengar. So we were in a really good position there, unless they had Focus Blast equipped. But even if they used Focus Blast to take out the Hydreigon, I still had, of course, the Tapu Fini left in the back and had some energy on it. I really think I would have been able to get to a Surf there. Very happy with how things turned out in that set. Again, I was a bit nervous at the beginning because of the loss up front, but I think I learned my lesson about using shields appropriately there and was able to turn some of these games around. So Hydreigon is definitely usable in the Ultra League. I won't say it's like the most valuable recent team member that I've practiced with, but it's still pretty fun. So I hope that you were able to get a good Hydreigon on your community day and that you've been using it in the various leagues. I might showcase it in the Master League. I've got a 4-star with 2 charge moves in the Master League, so I might do a video for that soon. Regardless, there will be more video content on the way, and I hope that I will see you in the comments there for that. Until next time, trainers.